Welcome, students. Today I am going to teach you the second chapter of your Moments book. The name of the chapter is The Adventures of Toto. Students, Toto is a baby monkey who does a lots of mischievous activities so that his activities are called adventures. So let's start reading the chapter. I am going to explain it to you. Grandfather bought Toto from a Tonga driver for the sum of 5 rupees. The Tonga driver used to keep the little red monkey tied to a feeding trough. And the monkey looked so out of place there that grandfather decided he would add the little fellow to his private zoo. Here, feeding trough means a feeding container of animal. The narrator of the story tells us that grandfather bought a monkey from a Tonga driver for rupees 5 because he was very fond of animals. When the grandfather saw Toto tied up to a feeding trough, he looked very ill and ugly, so that grandfather decided to kept the little fellow to his private zoo. Toto was a pretty monkey. His bright eyes sparkled with mischief beneath deep set eyebrows, and his teeth, which were very pearly white, were very often displayed in a smile that frightened the life out of elderly Anglo-Indian ladies. But his hands looked dried up as though they had been prickled in the sun for many years. Yet his fingers were quick and wicked, and his tail, while adding to his good looks, grandfather believed a tail would add to anyone's good looks, also served as a third hand. He could use it to hang from a branch, and it was capable of scooping up any delicacy that might be out of reach of his hands. Scooping up means picking up. Toto was a pretty monkey. He was pride of his mischief. He frightened Anglo-Indian ladies. His hands were dry, but fingers were quick. He had a beautiful tail that he used as his third hand. He could use it to hang from the branches and picking up things that might be out of reach of his hands. Grandmother always fussed with when grandfather brought home some new birds or animals. So it was decided that Toto's present should be kept a secret from her until she was in a particular good mood. Grandfather and I put him away in a little closet opening into my bedroom's wall, where he was tied securely, or so we thought, to a peg fastened into the wall. First means complaints. Toto's presence was kept as secret from grandmother, as she didn't like animals. It was kept secretly in a little closet in the narrator's room. He was tied to a wall peg. Wall peg means a kind of hook in wall. A few hours later, when grandfather and I came back to release Toto, we found that the wall, which had been covered with some ornamental papers chosen by grandfather, now stood out as naked brick and plaster. The peg in the wall had been wrecked from its socket, and my school blazer, which had been hanging there, was in shreds. Now, after few hours, narrator and his grandfather came back. They saw he tore off the wallpapers and the school blazer of narrators. Grandfather was pleased to see it. I wondered what grandmother would say, but grandfather didn't worry. He seemed pleased with Toto's performance. So, grandfather was pleased with Toto's performance. He is clever, said grandfather. Given time, I am sure he could have tied the torn pieces of your blazer into a rope and make his escape from the window. Grandfather said if we give him time, he could make a rope from the pieces of blazer and ran away from window. His presence in the house still a secret. Toto was now transferred to a big cage in the servants' quarters, where a number of grandfather's pets lived very sociably together: a tortoise, a pair of rabbits, a tame squirrel, and for a while my pet goat. But the monkey wouldn't allow any of his companions to sleep at night. So grandfather, who had to leave Dehradun next day to collect his pension in Saharanpur, decided to take him along. So his presence was still a secret. Toto was kept with pets in servants' quarters in a big cage where other pet lived very sociably: a tortoise, a pair of rabbits, squirrel, goats, etc. But he didn't let the other pet sleep at night. Next day, when grandfather was going to Saharanpur to collect his pension, he decided to take take Toto along with him as he didn't want to leave him at home. Unfortunately, I could not accompany grandfather on that trip, but he told me about it afterwards. A big black canvas kit bag was provided for Toto. This, with some straw at the bottom, became his new abode. Abode means house. When the bag was closed, there was no escape. Toto couldn't get his hand through the opening, and the canvas was too strong for him to bite his way through. His efforts to get out only had the effect of making the bag roll about on the floor or occasionally jump into the air. An exhibition that attracted a curious crowd of onlookers on the Dehradun railway platform. Narrator was not with his grandfather on that trip. A big black canvas bag was provided for Toto so that he could not escape. At the railway station in Dehradun, a huge crowd gathered around the grandpa to see the monkey. When grandpa was taking ticket, Toto remained in the bag as far as Saharanpur, but while grandfather was producing his ticket at the railway turnstile, Toto suddenly poked his head out of the bag and gave the ticket collector a wide grin. When grandpa was taking ticket from the Dehradun railway platform, when he was standing at the railway turnstile, Toto suddenly poked means kept out his head out of the bag and gave a broad smile to ticket collector. The poor man was taken aback, but with great presence of mind and much of grandfather's annoyance, he said, "Sir, you have a dog with you. You will have to pay for it accordingly." The ticket collector classified him as a dog so that grandfather had to pay his fare.